Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another retro adventure. And at the end of another week and the end of another poll, we've got a very definite win for Survival of the Fittest, an alternative reality adventure for Cyberpunk 2020. Now we'll have a look at that on the desktop in a wee second. And as usual, I'll be back at the end of the video with some other channel related stuff and some other poll related stuff. You could be a Scottish laird. Under an ancient Scottish law where anyone who owns land in Scotland can use the title of laird before their name, a law which actually doesn't exist. But what the hell, I'm willing to assign you a piece of my garden in the lowlands of Scotland and offer you a printable certificate to use the title of laird. Just join our Patreon at the laird level, choose a section of my garden, and then you can be a laird of Scotland. See my Patreon below, where you can get access to my videos a week early, help the channel out, be credited at the end of videos, and stake a claim to a tiny little piece of Scotland. Offer has no standing under law. Offer does not give you any real rights to part of my garden. Offer does not really make you a landowner. Offer is no different to all other Scottish title offers out there. So, this is Survival of the Fittest, a 1993 adventure for an alternate reality version of Cyberpunk. More specifically, for the Night's Edge alternate reality version of Cyberpunk by Ianus Games, who also published this adventure. Now, Night's Edge is about putting vampires and werewolves and psychic powers into the world of Cyberpunk. And I always thought it was a pretty good marriage, because the idea of dark creatures hunting through the Cyberpunk city streets really works. The darkness of a Cyberpunk city, constantly raining, people afraid, hungry, weak, against the corporations, and vampires hunting them down as well, works pretty darn well to my eyes. I think White Wolf Studios thought so as well, because I remember there were a few articles in White Wolf magazine about marrying up the world of darkness with Cyberpunk. But Night's Edge I really liked. It didn't take itself too seriously. Now this adventure is kind of an introduction to that world, where in the whole it's aimed about bringing players in as vampires and then having them a first adventure. But it's possible to play through as ordinary edge runners, and it gives suggestions on how to slot people in that fashion. Now, I'll have a look at the back cover as usual. I'll have a look through the adventure and sum up what's going on, and then I will give my opinion towards the end. So, the back. Survival of the Fittest. The tall figure was alone at the stern of the old decrepit cargo in the bay. Striking white flesh in the darkness of the night, alone against a backdrop of blinding neon lights and monstrous shadows, buffeted by the winds of fate. He lifted his head against the now raging wind, blue eyes locked on the city nearby, lights everywhere, but they were hurting. Buildings immense, omnipotent, choking the life of the city, and at the centre, the darkness, ominous, permeating everything and everyone. Was this everything there was to life? Constantly living on the edge, counting both light and darkness, sanity and madness, peace and violence, until all is blurred into the massive swirling grey cloud, until you lose your life to the punk's knife or the drug overdose cut open by the edge. Will he too fall prey to a fiery death like so many innocent victims before him? Will everything he has learned and felt disappear, faded memories washed away like tears in the rain? Will he dream? Join the cast and outcasts of Survival of the Fittest into an intricate adventure for up to 6 players in the shadow of the Night's Edge. Become children of the night struggling against an implacable enemy set upon your utter destruction. Wage a desperate battle against Arasaka, Sun Knights, and kin alike. Whatever happens, you will never be the same. So, that's kind of the setup of it. The players are going to be new vampires. Now, the adventure itself, obviously lots of spoilers here, is Arasaka has created a new type of engineered warrior. They're genetically engineered, they've got bio-tailored organs in, they've got nanites flowing through their veins, and they are very super-powered. But to power all these extra abilities, they need to feast on blood. So Arasaka has created themselves genetically engineered vampire, which is called Adam, the Advanced DNA Recombinant Artificial Man. Now, he goes out and starts feeding, and discovers that the vampires out there. Arasaka, searching for him, discover about the vampires as well, and hunt them down after a fashion. So there's this engineered monster who is the target, and the player vampires are kind of innocents in the tale, just out to survive a corporation going after them because they are being mistaken for this creation. Anyway, we've got a foreword talking us through how it can be used, play tips, along with lots of music suggestions for different sections of it. Summary of the adventure, detailing out basically what I've just told you. We've got hooks here, so how cop characters can get involved, corporates, fixers, gang members, medias, netrunners, nomads, rocker boys, solos, techies, vampires themselves, or vampire hunters. We've got a sequence of events, so from Adam escaping through to Arasaka finding a nest of vampires, taking one of them captive, coming back to destroy that nest of vampires later, and so on. So we've got details like the Coven House, and we've got a map of that later on. But we've got the encounter starting off. So, encounter with a fixer, encounter with vampires, and the Coven. And we detail NPCs within the Coven, because the setup of the adventure is that the players will become vampires. So these will be the vampires they know, the people within their Coven. There's a couple of covens, the Smith Coven, the Lincoln Coven. So they get to know people around Night City, or vampires around. They're not people, they're monsters. The artwork within the adventure is nice. I really did like the artwork in Night's Edge. I think it's kind of beautiful. The vampire's very sleek and sexy. We've got information about the scientist that's created this creature Adam, talking through the situation. So we've got the cops who are investigating the crimes, talking through Adam himself about information about Arasaka. The reaction. So the extraction team comes to get Adam, they find the vampires, and take one of them, because they find all these people zonked out, because it's daytime and vampires in Night's Edge have to sleep during daytime. It details how the extraction team leaves, and because it's Night City, a very violent, horrible place, that basically the vampires, when they wake up that night, will find their coven totally stripped. They'll wake up to a stripped clean Connaught, possibly with some graffitis covering the walls, and a missing person. So they have to find out what happened. They have to investigate this crime that happened to them while they slept. There's a Sun Knight, so vampire hunters, who get involved as well, because they're hearing about these deaths as Adam takes blood. Then we've got action as the Arasaka comes back and raids. But then we've got further action as the vampires will want to attack Arasaka. And then we've got details of the building entries, the lab sections, the cargo hideout, and the Coven House. Very small maps at the end. Now, I've laid out what happens, and the adventure lays it out far worse. This is a really badly put together adventure. I think adventures are often a map where it builds up your adventure as you explore the map and things happen, or a timeline. So you go into encounters and people will speak to you. Survival of the Fittest is very much setting up a timeline of what happens. So this is what the NPCs are doing. Setting up the personalities of the NPCs, and then kind of dumping the players into that. So the players can get involved, but there's not much help for the games master here. He has to decide what the NPCs are doing at various times and get the players involved in that. If your players mess around, then they'll miss timings for things. If they don't speak to characters and don't pick up on the clues, then they'll miss it. It is very much all the pieces to build an adventure, but lacking lots of the hand-holding that a published adventure should have. Now, given it's only about 32 pages long, you can't really expect too much in it. But I was not impressed. I was expecting a lot more here. I was expecting some nice set scenes and stuff linking it together to give the clues and lead the players through it. But it's very much left. So after the raid on their coven, there's a young boy who is watching from the street and they have to get the information from them. There's a later raid on their coven when the Arasaka comes back with vampire hunters to destroy because they realise they've found something unnatural. And then there's the raid as the vampires themselves attack Arasaka to get revenge and stop them hunting them further, destroy the information. It's lots of pieces, but not terribly well laid out for you. I can't recommend this adventure, sadly. I absolutely adore Night's Edge as a setting, but as an adventure, this is very much a failure. There's some ideas in here, you could maybe build something up from it, but from paying out for an adventure, I would really expect to be able to use something straight from the book, rather than have to sit and build my own adventure from the pieces they provide. So that was Survival of the Fittest, and that won the poll this week with 38% of the vote, way ahead of anything else. In second place, in fact, was Out in the Black for the Serenity role-playing game on only 20%. And everything lagged behind that. The Last Warhulk for Alternity on 15%, Operation Rapid Strike for Top Secret on 14%, and The Perfect Warrior for the Street Fighter role-playing game also on 14%. So Survival of the Fittest romped home. But as usual, they're all completely wiped out of the poll, and we're going back to a retro RPG. So this week, I'm heavily ladening it full of Shadowrun things, to get you to vote for something else, to split the Shadowrun vote. Let's see if it works. So first of all, we've got the Germany sourcebook for Shadowrun. Now this is an interesting one because it was first published in German, and then translated. So not by the core team in America, it was written by people in Germany about their home country. Next we've got Year of the Comet, which was by FanPro for Shadowrun. So this details a world-changing event spread over a year. So much like Bug City, much like the Renraku Arcology shutdown, it transforms the world, but this time it's a series of events over a year rather than one sudden event. And finally for Shadowrun we've got Threats, which is a sourcebook with detailing various threats to the world. Major things, so rather than just individual corporations, these are big threats which Shadowrunners can be thrown against for Games Masters. In other games, we've got the Adept's Way for Earthdawn. So sticking with FASA, a fantastic book at the way magic is used by each of the different classes within Earthdawn, a game where everybody manipulates magic. And finally, we've got Marienburg Sold Down the River for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Fantastic source book by Hog's Head when they were keeping the Warhammer title going. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Now, we'll see which one of those wins. Another channel-related stuff, well, I'm still looking for players for the Cyberpunk adventure, Cyberpunk Easy Mode, that I should be running basically tomorrow when this video comes out, but we shall see how that works out. Other things, well, not much. You'll have seen the Patreon video at the start or before I looked at Survival of the Fittest, and I've got some other interesting stuff going, but we'll see how that works out. Anyway, as usual, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.